Hello, and welcome to Point of View, where we give students a place to listen, learn, and lean in. My name's Rachel Everett.
My name's Marcus Kim.
I'm Delisa.
And I'm Jordan Anderson, and this is Across the Table, where we'll discuss different topics that affect our everyday lives. In today's episode, we'll be covering how our social lives have shifted over the past year. Since March 2020, I can definitely say my social lives and friendship has definitely changed. Like, I've lost a few friends, I made a few friends, and I kind of connected more with people over the past year, I got to say.
I feel like my friendships dipped off. I never really hung out with people outside of school back in March. And then once COVID hit, it was always the only person I talked to was my boyfriend at the time.
Yeah, a lot of at least going into COVID and our freshman year, a lot of our friendships were mainly in person, right? Like, our friends were decided by who we would sit by at lunch, who we were assigned to be seated next to in our classes. And depending on if you had classes with people or not, your friendships would wax and wane. So then once we were forced into COVID, right, into quarantine, not being able to see people face to face, it really started to challenge how you approached friendship with different people.
I feel like rather than dipping out, most of my friendships just went virtual, and we definitely it was hard not seeing them face to face, but at the same time it helped me expand some of my other friendships who people who may not have been super close with, I got close with just because we could talk to each other online all the time.
Yeah. I also have to say, especially with the friends that you only talk to in school and you don't talk outside of school, I definitely lost those friendships because we only talked in class. We will hang out in the hallway, eat lunch together. But then when quarantine hit, I just stopped talking to them because I had no other way to talk to them, which was kind of unfortunate. But it just shows how not everyone you think is your friend is your friend, if that makes sense. Right?
Yeah.
For me, it was kind of the opposite. I've kind of found myself getting closer to some people who I consider my school friends. A lot of people who are at school, they only hang out with people who they're super close to or who are in their friend group. And I realized that when people are online, you interact with a bunch more people. Through Instagram, you can just comment on their posts or DM them or whatever. So it was a lot easier to communicate with people who I wouldn't have hung out with outside of school.
I think going off what Jordan said, the whole thing of maybe it was a test of who your true friends were. And I remember, and this might be a recent thing, but I remember it was the whole thing of well, if they don't text you first, then it doesn't matter, or they're not your real friend. And it's also I feel that goes both ways, but it's also a test of, are these people really real hardcore friendships that could last for a while, or are they just, you're at school, you're my friend, I want to hang out with you, and I don't really have anyone else to hang out with.
Yeah, I actually think that with these very superficial, just in-person friendly friendships that aren't too deep, I don't think that those are exactly a bad thing. I think that those superficial friendships actually have a place in our lives, right? Because not every friendship you're going to have is going to be very deep and lifelong and life-changing. We've all had friends that we knew in elementary school that we don't talk to anymore, and there's something about that helps us grow as people, right? So once quarantine hit and we were forced to truly kind of interact with the people we actually wanted to have deep friendships with, I think a lot of our social skills, right, learning how to be able to adapt to different social situations and how to approach different people kind of started to fall off because we didn't exactly have to talk to these superficial friends.
For me, it was low-key kind of the opposite. During school, around freshman year, I found it really hard to engage in small talk. But I would say this summer, I got a job and it's in retail, so it helped me interact with people of all different ages, races, etc., and just know how to engage in small talk with them. And so I guess the pandemic, using social media a lot, plus having a job actually helped me know how to interact with people who I wasn't super close with.
Yeah, I feel when it comes to like you said, Marcus, learning how to talk to people, for me, it was way harder to communicate with my friends online because normally we don't really text. Like, I have, like, many friends, like, we're really close, but, like, we don't, like, talk outside of school that much. Like, we'll hang out, like, once every, like, 3 months, literally. But, like, during quarantine, when we did not see each other for 8 hours, 5 days a week, for, like, a minute, it was kind of awkward when I text her. I'd be like, hey, and then she just says, hey. And it'll be awkward because we really don't know what to say because we're not used to that online communication back to back every single day. And that goes for, like, all of my friends, too.
The element of small talk, like, I think maybe it was Delisa talking about it, was just, like, I feel like it's so awkward to go up to someone, like, online, in an online aspect of just being like, hey, how are you? And not, like, I feel like it's so difficult taking that first step, especially online. Like, maybe in a way it's just like, I don't want to inconvenience this person. I don't want to bother them with a bunch of notifications. But when you're in person, you're able to pick up on, like, social cues and be like, oh, is this person busy? Oh, this person really isn't interested in talking to me. And so I've kind of, like, developed the thing where I kind of hate small talk. I mean, I get DMs from people that I know, and, like, this is by no means a call out, and they're just like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, this is really awkward. I don't know what to say, because it'll just be like, hey, how are you? And then it'll go to, I'm good, how are you? I'm good. And then the conversation will taper off.
There were definitely a lot of times during the pandemic where, like, not much was going on, and so it felt like even if I wanted to talk to my friends, I wouldn't have anything to talk about, or even if I did text them, like, they wouldn't reply because, like, everyone has their own thing that's going on.
Yeah, so in AP Lang, there was this very, very interesting topic we had to write about is small talk relevant in today's age, right? And arguments to be made where, you're kind of concealing your true intentions, or you might come off as, like, insincere, right? So oftentimes, in the hall when you pass somebody and you kind of have to make a decision. Do I, like, pretend like I don't see them? Do I try to wave? What if they don't look at me? What if I just look weird waving at someone who isn't waving back, right? So I think this element of small talk was completely eradicated for me in quarantine. And honestly, in a weird way, it kind of helped with my self-confidence almost. It kind of taught me that I really don't need to, pretend to be super friendly with my peers, but still maintain my friendships, right?
Like, another thing, when talking online, like, when you're in person with somebody, like, you can see their expressions. You can see, like, oh, they're happy, they're sad, or if they're annoyed. But, like, online, you don't know. Like, you can text someone, hey, they can say hey back, but, like, that hey can be an annoyed hey, or I really don't feel like talking hey, or it can be like, oh, I'm glad you texted me hey, and you really don't know. And I was like what you were saying, Rachel, how, like, sometimes you don't want to be annoying, because there's been times where I've texted my friends, like, we'll be having a conversation, and I just feel like, even though they didn't say they were, I felt like I was being annoying in some way. Like, maybe I should stop texting them and just, like, wait till 2 weeks later to continue the conversation. But then at the same time, that person could get the wrong message if you, like, stop talking to them thinking that you're being annoying, but then they'll think that, oh, did I do something wrong? It's really confusing. It's just confusing.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you see a message be left unread on, like, Instagram, right?
Yeah.
And, there are, like, different types of social medias, right? There's, like, Instagram and Snapchat that, tell you when someone has read something or when they're typing. And then there's things like iMessages where you have the option to show if you read something or not. And honestly, I think that the element of, in social media, when it shows your status of, okay, I have seen this message, I think that adds another layer of, like, complexity, right? So it's like you send someone a message and you don't see if they read it or not. That kind of gives you a peace of mind. It's kind of weird, but social media, my perspective on social media has definitely changed because, without social cues, right, without, like, face-to-face, you kind of have to rely on any resource you get, right? So read recipients are basically the only type of context anyone could ever have in online situations.
And there would be times where someone would text me and it would just be like them responding to something I sent, and I would leave them on read because it's not like something I would respond to. But then when someone does that to me, I'd be thinking, man, did I just mess up? Are they mad at me or something? So, like, it's like I said before, it's confusing, but you just have to base your knowledge on like your own intuition sometimes.
That kind of brings into the whole thing of like this rising of tone indicators. Are y'all familiar with that? Like
A little,
the
yeah.
slash and then there's like a letter.
Oh yeah.
I feel like maybe because we've gone into like quarantine and haven't had these social cues, I feel like that might have been one of the reasons why the tone indicators have like increased. And like with what Marcus was saying with the whole peers and like with social media and having those read receipts is also very important.
There's been a lot of times where someone has like left me on read or ignored my messages, and it has made me feel insecure or like start to overthink, oh, are they annoyed with me and stuff, like Jordan was saying. But I realized that I also do that to people, and usually it's not because I'm annoyed with them or anything like that. It's because, especially through the pandemic, I had like a lot going on. I wasn't really focused on every single person I was talking to. Like sometimes I would read a message and just forget to respond completely. So being able to see like that different perspective that, oh, someone may leave me on read, they might be annoyed at me, but also realizing that, wait, I do the same thing to other people. And it's usually not because of that reason. So like talking to my friends about it and being like, hey, we haven't hung out in a while, like what's going on? And just having that sort of like open communication has really helped me like stay close with my friends.
You know what? That reminds me of something, right? Remember like before quarantine, if someone would DM me and I look at their profile and I ask myself, who is this? Right? So then you kind of have to click on their profile, see their tags, and they're like, oh, okay, I know who this person is, right? But after quarantine, right, when we had to, shift to online and, we would play games with people, we would meet strangers online, I feel like I've become more comfortable with opening conversations with people I don't know, right? I feel like I don't need, the context of who this person is, who their friends are to be able to make a good conversation, right? I see that we both like this same common interest. Okay, boom, I can make a good conversation off that. So it's definitely helped me in my, communicative arts, right? I'm able to, have deep conversations, or maybe not so deep, but have conversations with people that, I don't really know.
And I realized that like over the pandemic, it was extremely hard for me to open up and have like deep conversations with my friends, which is another reason that it was really important to have open communication with them, because I know like mental health struggles and like school and all of that could be even more stressful when you're not seeing anyone and you're literally sitting alone in your room on your desk all day just doing work and not having anyone to hang out with or talk to. So yeah, like it was really hard for me. I think I've become like a lot more reserved and a lot less willing to talk about myself just because of the pandemic.
I can definitely relate to that. I have having that whole thing of trying to communicate with people and like maybe you overthink like what you're doing, and like that whole thing of overthinking, am I annoying this person? I feel like that also applies with the being able to communicate with people with your mental health.
I also feel like having to like communicate with people might have brought some like friendships closer, because I know one of my friends, we talk like every 3 months for like no weird reason, but over when quarantine started, we started talking more, especially freshman years, because she was in lots of my classes, and we started talking more, and it actually brought our friendship a lot closer, because now we are a lot closer than we were this time last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And I definitely feel like having to talk to people online gives you better ways to communicate, like Marcus was saying, help with like communicating and learning how to talk to people without being afraid to, because in this like time period, that's the only way we can talk to people, really.
Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed is that when I'm introduced to like a friend of a friend, usually I won't get super close to them unless we have like that one-on-one like hangout session. And it's like the same thing with online. You're talking or typically talking to someone just one-on-one, and that can help you grow closer when you're not surrounded by other people,
Without other people just like watching you. It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be awkward. I know, like for instance, one of my friends, he introduced me to one of his friends, and we were on the FaceTime call, and he left the call, and it was just me and him, his friend, and it was really awkward at first because I had no clue who he was, and we were just sitting there in silence the whole entire time. But like eventually, we started to like get in like a smooth flow of conversation, and it became less awkward. And I like how like when the other person leaves, it helps you be more comfortable because it's like having eyes watching you, or like someone's listening. It's awkward because you can't really be yourself in a way.
Yeah. And also for me, it's when I shifted to talking with people online, we've talked about how we can't see, facial, like tone indicators, and a lot of difficulties came to fruition after, being online and not seeing people face to face. And, when, as Delisa said, when you get left on red, you get really self-conscious, right? Like, oh, did I make this person mad? Did I say something wrong? And surprisingly, through quarantine, I think I've actually matured to be able to actually like express those feelings, right? So after coming back to school, whenever, I talk with a friend, sometimes I'll just say, hey, how's everything? Am I doing anything wrong? Are you happy with our friendship? Is there anything I can like do to better myself, right? So I think that's helped me mature as like a person, and not only in my friendships, right? So it definitely helped me. Quarantine definitely helped me take that step forward to be able to, take the first step and try to make things right with a friendship if you think something's off.
I think sorry. I think the transition from online to school was like super impactful for me because like people who I got close with over online, suddenly I could see them in person and talk to them, and it was like really fun because like suddenly I have all of these like new friends that like I would never have talked to before. So I think like coming back to school and seeing everyone in person was like much more enjoyable after like an entire year of being online.
But with what Marcus was saying with the online friends and the social cues, I definitely found myself appreciating online friendships a lot more. I think I would say that I had more online friendships than in-person friendships. Of course, we weren't actually in person. Mm-hmm. The fact that I didn't have to worry about like overthinking all of these social cues almost made me like ignorant, but in a good ignorant way. I was able to just enjoy the conversation and talk with all of these people. And I was able to make plenty of friends because I didn't have to worry about like if they'll like me, if they think I'm like nice or something. I'm just able to play games with them and then we can hang out and stuff.
And another thing with online friends that I really like is that when you're meeting someone online, you don't know them, right? They get to know you from scratch. Because like when you're meeting people from, let's say your school, let's say you're meeting a friend of a friend, they most likely know something about you that they heard from someone else. They don't really know you for how you would describe yourself. But with online friends, you can start off from scratch. They can build up a relationship with them, and they can build up how they perceive you as a person without having that background knowledge of, oh, she did this, oh, so she must be like that. And I definitely feel like online friends, in a way, it's a nice like start over.
Absolutely. You don't have to worry about what someone might have heard or a rumor that might have happened. They'll just know you by whatever you present.
Yeah, and it's also really difficult since Northview is kind of a smaller school, right? So everybody kind of knows everybody. So it definitely, over quarantine, it really helped me, interacting with online people. It helped me become more self-confident in myself, right? I remember before it was really difficult, like people would say bad things about you and you would care a lot about what people said. But then after quarantine, after having to, a lot of time with yourself and a lot of time with people who know nothing about you, I kind of learned to be able to take those things in stride, right? And of course, not everyone's going to believe everything that they hear. And actually, some of my closest friendships have actually started when, they told me, hey, I heard this thing about you, but I didn't choose to believe it. And it sounds like that thing isn't true. And that, kind of, it really showed me over quarantine that not only I, but a lot of other people have matured as well.
Yeah. I just feel like this is one big experience that tests our maturity, like how we feel about ourselves, and like just like mainly how we feel about ourselves. Because I know a lot of people, like this whole experience of being online, a lot of people kept to themselves because you were at home and stuff like that. So it really just like helps us learn more about ourselves and just stop caring what like other people say. Because like at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what other people say, because they're just saying things to be saying things 90% of the time. Like, it only matters what you think about yourself, because at the end of the day, it's only going to affect you and not the people you sit next to in class or the people you bump into in the hallway.
I definitely think now that we've like come back to school, I mean, I'm not that involved in the drama, so I don't know, but I feel like I've gotten the sense that there's like less drama, less rumors. Everyone seems to be keeping to themselves or their small group because they realize that like that just doesn't matter. You can be who you want to be and just kind of chillax.
Yeah.
I definitely think coming back to school has been a good opportunity to understand all of these things and see how quarantine has really changed you. And
you know, it's an interesting thing, right? You know, time seemed to go by so much slower when we were younger, but you know, as we got into middle school, the years started to go by quicker. So I think quarantine really gave us a good sense that, hey, a lot can happen in a year and you can change a lot as a person. Not only yourself, your maturity, your social situations, a lot of things can change in a year, right? So after seeing, you know, a whole gap of a year, seeing those people you remember from freshman year and now in junior year, at least for me, it's really cool. You know, I didn't give people enough credit, right? You know, people have matured, people have changed, and I think that's probably the best thing that's changed about my social life, right?
So another thing, when we came back to school, it was really fun to see how people change too. Like when you know someone from like 7th grade and how they acted then, and now you see them now, you're just like, whoa, that's crazy. And like even people said that about me. Personally, I don't think I've changed that much, but people have definitely said, oh, Jordan, you've changed a little. Like you're not the same, not in a negative way, but like in a positive way. Like you're not the same person you used to be a year ago. And like you said, Marcus, it shows us how much things can change in like a short period of time. And it's like a reality check, to be honest.
I feel like for most people, the pandemic was like an opportunity to like explore like who we are separate from our friends and everyone else around us. So it really gave me the opportunity to like, like Marcus said and you said, grow as a person.
I think this whole experience of quarantine, not involving COVID, just like the social aspect of it is really going to affect us. I mean, not maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way, but it's definitely changed us in a way. But
and who's to say, you know, it might seem weird to say, but who says bad change is a bad thing, right? Like maybe losing some friends might, you know, actually turn out for the good when you look at it look at it in a future lens, right? But yeah, thank you so much for listening. My name is Marcus.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Jordan.
I'm Delisa.
This was Point of View.
Thank you for watching.